Stephen Paddock was born in 1953 in Clinton, Iowa. His father was an accountant and his mother was a homemaker. As a child, Stephen was quiet and often kept to himself. Neighbors described him as smart but distant. He grew up with a fascination for numbers and gambling, interests that would follow him throughout his life. As an adult, Paddock became a real estate investor and a high-stakes gambler. He was known to live a largely private life. He had no history of violent behavior that drew major attention, which baffled those who knew him. Paddock collected firearms and had a passion for shooting. Investigators later discovered that he meticulously planned his attack for months, choosing his targets and preparing equipment with extreme care. Paddock rented a hotel suite overlooking the Las Vegas Strip and brought in over 20 firearms, including rifles modified for rapid fire. He positioned them to have a clear line of sight into the crowd below. Surveillance footage and witness accounts show that he acted alone and without immediate motive that could be easily explained. On the night of October 1st, 2017, Paddock opened fire on a crowd attending a music festival on the Las Vegas Strip. Over 10 minutes, he killed 60 people and injured more than 400. Law enforcement breached his hotel room, finding Paddock dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The attack became the deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history. Despite extensive investigation, authorities could not identify a clear reason or motive for his actions, leaving many questions unanswered. Omar Mateen was born in 1986 in New York to parents who had immigrated from Afghanistan. As a child, he moved with his family to Florida. People who knew him said he was often angry and had trouble getting along with others. He struggled with controlling his emotions and sometimes acted out at school. His early years showed signs of conflict, both at home and socially. As Mateen grew older, he worked as a security guard. He often talked about violence and weapons, which worried some coworkers. He searched for a sense of identity and belonging, but shifted between ideas and beliefs. Investigators later found he had viewed extremist content online. However, there was no clear sign that he was directly connected to any organized group. Mateen had a history of domestic violence, and people close to him described him as controlling. His personal life was unstable, and he often struggled to manage anger. Before the attack, Mateen legally bought firearms and scouted possible locations. He chose Pulse nightclub, a popular LGBTQ+ venue in Orlando. His decision seemed influenced by hatred, confusion, and personal frustration. On June 12, 2016, Mateen entered Pulse nightclub armed with an assault-style rifle and a handgun. Inside, over 300 people were celebrating a Saturday night out. Mateen opened fire, killing 49 and injuring many others. He then held hostages inside the club while speaking with police by phone. He claimed various motives during the standoff, adding confusion to his intentions. After several hours, law enforcement breached the building. Mateen was killed in the exchange. The Pulse nightclub shooting became one of the deadliest mass shootings in U.S. history. Sung-hee Cho was born in South Korea in 1984. His family moved to the United States when he was 8 years old. Cho was extremely quiet and shy as a child. As Cho grew older, his isolation deepened. In school, he showed signs of severe depression and anxiety. Teachers reported that his writing assignments contained violent themes which raised concern. He was referred to counseling, but support was limited and inconsistent. At Virginia Tech, Cho continued to withdraw socially. He rarely spoke in class and had no close friends. Mental health evaluations noted troubling behavior, but gaps in the system meant no long-term intervention occurred. Cho built a growing sense of resentment toward society, believing he had been wronged and ignored. In the months before the attack, Cho legally purchased firearms. He recorded videos and wrote messages expressing anger, blame, and hostility toward others. These materials suggested a desire to be heard after years of silence. His actions showed planning but also deep emotional distress. On April 16, 2007, Cho carried out 2 attacks on the Virginia Tech campus. He killed 32 people, including students and professors, before taking his own life. It became the deadliest mass shooting at a U.S. college at the time.
The tragedy shocked the nation and exposed serious failures in mental health systems and campus safety procedures. Investigations showed that warning signs were present but not fully connected or acted upon.
Adam Lanza was born in 1992 in New Hampshire and later lived in Connecticut. As a child, he was described as very quiet and intelligent. He struggled with social interaction and avoided eye contact. Loud noises and crowded places caused him distress. His parents divorced when he was young, and Adam lived with his mother. As Adam grew older, his isolation increased. He stopped attending school in person and completed high school courses from home. He rarely left the house and had almost no friends. Communication with others became difficult, even with family members. Mental health professionals were involved at different points, but there was no consistent long-term treatment plan. Adam developed an intense interest in violence and mass shootings. He spent hours researching past attacks and reading about them online. He also played violent video games obsessively, though experts later stressed this alone does not cause violence. His world became very narrow, focused on routines, the internet, and his private thoughts. His relationship with his mother became strained. She also owned firearms, which were legally purchased and stored in the home. Investigators later found that Adam had been planning the attack for some time, though he left no clear explanation for why he chose his target. On December 14, 2012, Adam Lanza killed his mother at their home before driving to Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut. Inside the school, he killed 20 children and 6 adults in a matter of minutes. When police arrived, Lanza took his own life. The Sandy Hook shooting shocked the world because of the young age of the victims. Despite investigations, Adam Lanza's exact motive remains unclear. The tragedy remains one of the deadliest school shootings in U.S. history.
Devin Patrick Kelly was born in 1991 in Colorado. His childhood was unstable. People who knew him described frequent anger and trouble following rules. As a teenager, he showed aggressive behavior and had difficulty controlling his emotions. He struggled with authority and often reacted violently when confronted. As a young adult, Kelly joined the U.S. Air Force. During his service, his behavior worsened. He was court-martialed for assaulting his wife and child. He served time in military confinement and received a bad conduct discharge. These convictions should have stopped him from legally buying firearms, but records were not properly reported to civilian databases. After leaving the military, Kelly moved to Texas. He had ongoing domestic problems and was described by neighbors as hostile and threatening. He showed patterns of violent behavior long before the attack. Despite multiple warning signs, there was no coordinated intervention. Kelly also had a history of targeting people he felt wronged him. Investigators later learned that the church he attacked was connected to his estranged family. On November 5, 2017, Kelly entered First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs during Sunday service. He opened fire, killing 26 people, including children, and injuring many others. Worshippers attempted to escape or hide as the attack unfolded. After leaving the church, Kelly was confronted by an armed civilian and fled. He later died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Before we continue with the list, you'll start to notice a pattern forming. Keep these behaviors in mind as we continue through the list. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Now, let's get back to the list.
Nicholas Cruz was born in 1998 in Florida. He was adopted as a baby by a couple who later divorced. His home life was unstable. From a young age, Cruz showed behavior problems. He had trouble controlling anger and often acted out. Teachers reported discipline issues early on. When his adoptive father died, his behavior worsened. Later, his mother became ill and eventually passed away, leaving Cruz emotionally isolated. As Cruz grew older, his problems became more serious. He was frequently disciplined at school for fights, threats, and disturbing behavior. He was eventually expelled from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. He posted violent messages online and talked openly about wanting to hurt people. Many classmates saw him as dangerous and avoided him. Cruz was evaluated by mental health professionals several times. He showed signs of depression, anger, and obsession with weapons. Despite many warning signs, there was no long-term supervision or consistent treatment. After his mother's death, Cruz lived with friends but had no stable support system. He legally purchased a rifle after turning 18. He practiced shooting and planned the attack. Investigators later found that he studied school layouts and timed his movements. His actions were not sudden. They showed planning and intent built over months. On February 14, 2018, Nicholas Cruz arrived at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. It was Valentine's Day and students were leaving for the afternoon. Cruz entered a building with a rifle and opened fire. He killed 17 people, including students and staff, and injured many others. After the shooting, Cruz fled the campus and blended into the neighborhood. He was arrested later that day without resistance. During questioning, he admitted to the attack.
Charles Whitman was born in 1941 in Florida. He grew up in a strict household. His father was controlling and often abusive. As a child, Whitman was intelligent and disciplined. He performed well in school and showed strong focus. At the same time, he lived under constant pressure at home. This created fear, stress, and emotional conflict from a young age. Whitman joined the U.S. Marine Corps as a young man and was trained as a sharpshooter. He later attended the University of Texas. Outwardly, his life appeared stable. He had a wife, was enrolled in college, and held jobs. But internally, he struggled with growing emotional problems. Whitman began experiencing intense headaches, mood swings, and violent thoughts. He became increasingly anxious and depressed. He was aware something was wrong and even sought medical help. In notes he later left behind, he asked for an autopsy on his brain, believing something physical was affecting his behavior. Despite these warning signs, Whitman did not receive effective treatment. On the night before the attack, Charles Whitman killed his wife and mother. In notes, he claimed he did this to spare them from future suffering. These actions showed how detached and distorted his thinking had become. On August 1, 1966, Charles Whitman went to the University of Texas at Austin. He climbed to the top of the campus clock tower with rifles and ammunition. From the observation deck, he opened fire on people below. Students, staff, and pedestrians were caught in the open with little protection. Whitman killed 16 people from the tower and injured many others. 2 more people later died from related injuries, bringing the death toll to 18. The attack lasted about 90 minutes. Police officers and civilians worked together to reach the tower. 2 officers eventually confronted Whitman and killed him. After the attack, an autopsy revealed a brain tumor pressing against areas linked to emotion and behavior control. While doctors could not say the tumor directly caused the violence, it raised serious questions about the role of untreated medical and mental conditions.
James Huberty was born in 1942 in Ohio. As a child, he lived in a working-class family. Huberty was quiet and obedient, but struggled socially. He was described as shy and often kept to himself. As he grew older, he developed an interest in firearms and mechanics. He also showed signs of anxiety and mood swings, though these were not formally diagnosed at the time. As an adult, Huberty held a variety of jobs, but struggled to maintain stability. He had difficulties with authority and often felt frustrated by his work and personal life. He was married and had children, but relationships were strained. Huberty also developed an obsession with guns and spent increasing amounts of time at shooting ranges. In the years before the attack, Huberty experienced depression, paranoia, and social isolation. He frequently spoke about feeling alienated and frustrated with society. Huberty had purchased firearms legally and trained with them at home and at public ranges. Huberty's behavior became more erratic over time. Neighbors described him as withdrawn and tense. He often expressed anger and hopelessness. Investigators later determined that he had spent time planning the attack, including the location, timing, and the number of victims he intended to harm. On July 18, 1984, James Huberty entered a McDonald's restaurant in San Ysidro, California. The restaurant was crowded with families and children. Huberty opened fire with a semi-automatic rifle, killing 21 people and wounding 19 others. The attack lasted more than 70 minutes, during which law enforcement officers tried to reach him. Police eventually entered the building and shot Huberty, ending the attack. At the time, it was one of the deadliest mass shootings in U.S. history.